Welcome, curious minds, to another deep dive. Today we're plunging into a paradox that honestly perfectly encapsulates the ever-shifting landscape of value in the creative world. Picture this, a song that just transcended language barriers, cultural divides, a global phenomenon that literally made people feel happy. We're talking, of course, about Pharrell Williams' huge hit, Happy, a track that pulled in over 43 million streams on Pandora alone. I mean, a staggering number. You'd instinctively think that translates into an astronomical payday, wouldn't you? Well, here's where the paradox really hits. For all those tens of millions of streams, as both the songwriter and the publisher, Pharrell Williams earned a meager $2,700 in royalties. Yep, you heard that correctly. $2,700. For a song that became a cultural anthem, a global touchstone. Let that number, that almost insulting figure, just sit with you for a moment. Now take that number and put it right next to his current role, the men's creative director of Louis Vuitton. This isn't just a job, it's a position of immense cultural, artistic, and undeniably significant financial power. We're talking one of the world's most prestigious luxury houses. So the central question for our deep dive today becomes, how did a creative genius, seemingly so drastically undervalued by traditional systems, not only rise to such a pinnacle, but fundamentally redefine what creativity is truly worth? And this isn't merely a story about music or fashion, it's about a strategic mind, a visionary, who meticulously built lasting influence piece by painstaking piece. Our mission today is to unpack that playbook for you.
And that's precisely our aim. We're embarking on a journey that goes beyond simply admiring the artist, the hit maker or the designer. Instead, we're dissecting the inner frameworks, the strategic blueprints behind extraordinary, enduring success. We're looking at Pharrell Williams, the strategist, the builder, the brand architect. His remarkable path tells us a profound story about money, about creativity, and about cultivating long-term power in a world that, as you just highlighted, frequently misjudges or outright undervalues true worth. Our guiding purpose is to help you decipher how you can extract these potent lessons and apply them directly to your own pursuits, really empowering you to define and ultimately demand your own value, rather than just passively waiting for someone else to finally recognize it.
Okay, let's truly immerse ourselves in that shocking reality. The year is 2014. Pharrell and his inner circle, his team, they're gathered, probably buzzing with anticipation, expecting really triumphant news. Happy isn't just a hit song, it's a bona fide cultural phenomenon. It is inescapable.
Absolutely everywhere.
You're hearing it on the radio, seeing it in commercials. It's the soundtrack to dance competitions, morning shows, school recitals, you name it. It's everywhere, just ingrained in the collective consciousness. This kind of cultural saturation is what artists spend entire careers dreaming of, and honestly, few ever genuinely achieve it. And there they are, looking at the royalty statement from Pandora just for the first quarter.
Just one platform.
Just one platform, 43 million streams.
And then the number drops. $2,700, like you said, not per day, not per million streams, but the grand total for all 43 million streams. And he's listed as both the songwriter and the publisher.
Wow.
It reads like a punchline, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like something from a dark comedy about the music industry. But it was brutally accurate. It reflected the notoriously Byzantine, incredibly complex royalty structures of the time. Pandora's non-interactive streaming rates, in particular, were infamously low. We're talking fractions of a cent per stream, which then had to be split and carved up among countless rights holders, publishers, record labels, management layers, the whole 9 yards.
It's dizzying just thinking about it.
Exactly. And while his team probably understood the technicalities, the real sting wasn't just the tiny sum itself. It was the unequivocal, almost insulting message embedded within that number. Your immense creative output, your undeniable cultural impact, according to this system, well, it's utterly negligible.
I can only imagine the frustration. Most creatives would be absolutely enraged by that kind of return on a global hit. They'd be on social media calling for industry reform, maybe even suing. But that wasn't Pharrell's reaction, was it?
Precisely. That's the fascinating part. To most, that figure would have sparked a furious protest, a public call to arms against an unfair system. But for Pharrell, it was profoundly illuminating. He described it as a critical pivot point, a moment of startling clarity. It didn't alter what he created. He kept pushing artistic boundaries, making groundbreaking music. What it fundamentally transformed was why he created. He grasped that the traditional revenue model was just entirely disconnected from the immense value and creative labor he was pouring into his work.
Okay, so instead of anger, it was like a realization.
Exactly. Instead of succumbing to outrage or engaging in public outcry, he made a strategic pause. And he arrived at a decision that, frankly, few creatives ever truly dare to embrace. He stopped expecting money to be the validator of his value. He articulated this shift with profound simplicity. He said, "Money doesn't motivate me. I'm moved by ideas, by people, by culture. The money comes when the value is undeniable."
That's powerful.
And it wasn't just a catchy quote for an interview. It was a deep philosophical reorientation of his entire approach to his career. He didn't abandon music. He simply diversified his efforts in a radical new direction. He observed that the platforms distributing art were profiting exponentially more from hosting it than the artists were from creating it. This insight crystallized a crucial truth for him. The only sustainable path forward was through ownership.
Ownership. Okay. So he moved from simply collecting royalties to actively, it sounds like aggressively, building his own creative ecosystem. Can you give us some more concrete examples of what that looked like in practice?
Absolutely. And it wasn't a sudden pivot, more like a deliberate decade-long expansion. A prime example is his co-founding of Billionaire Boys Club, or BBC, with Japanese designer Nigo way back in 2005.
Right. I remember BBC.
Yeah. And this wasn't just a celebrity-endorsed clothing line. It was a meticulously crafted streetwear brand that fundamentally fused music, fashion, and an entirely new cultural identity. Think about its distinct aesthetic, a blend of skate culture, the raw energy of hip-hop, the meticulous detail of Japanese streetwear, and a kind of futurist minimalism that was really ahead of its time.
Yeah, it had a very specific feel.
Exactly. The source captures it perfectly. BBC wasn't just merch. It was philosophy. It was a complete world he was building, and it allowed him to embed his identity into tangible, scalable, and crucially ownable assets.
Ownable. There's that word again.
Right. Unlike the fleeting fraction of cent royalties from streams, fashion offered upfront margins and, maybe even more importantly, longevity. When you bought a BBC hoodie or a pair of ice cream sneakers back in, say, 2007, you weren't just buying a garment. You're investing in a piece of Pharrell's entire creative universe, a tangible piece of his perspective.
That's a really different way of looking at it than just selling merch.
Totally. And beyond fashion, he also began actively building and investing in creative collectives. For instance, he started nurturing young talent within his own network, bringing in emerging producers, visual artists, designers under his wing, not just to collaborate on projects, but to help them develop their own intellectual property and career paths.
So he was building infrastructure for others, too.
Precisely.
Yeah.
He literally stopped playing the game of chasing payouts within existing structures and instead strategically started building long-term equity, brick by brick. This profound mindset shift from simply being a royalty collector to becoming an asset builder culminated directly in his February 2023 appointment as men's creative director for Louis Vuitton.
Which, as you said, sent shockwaves through the fashion world.
It did. But in hindsight, it makes perfect strategic sense within the narrative of his career. He arrived at Louis Vuitton not just with a catalog of chart-topping hits or impressive sales figures, but with an unparalleled accumulation of cultural capital.
Cultural capital.
Yes. He wasn't just a hit maker. He was a tastemaker, a trend definer, and most importantly, a deeply intuitive systems thinker.
Okay.
So that $2,700 wasn't a defeat. It was a powerful signal. It told him, with undeniable clarity, that if he wanted to be compensated for his true worth, he needed to disentangle himself from systems that were inherently designed to measure only scale, not intrinsic value.
So he took control.
He took control. He began to build his own metrics where ideas and cultural impact drove his decisions, not algorithms or traditional industry formulas. He strategically shifted his financial model from what we might call linear income, getting paid a set rate per play, per project, to exponential leverage, meaning getting paid across multiple platforms through diverse products and by shifting entire paradigms.
That's a huge mental shift.
Huge. In doing so, he fundamentally redefined the purpose of money for himself. It stopped being a direct reward for being creative or merely something to be chased. Instead, money became a critical resource, a form of infrastructure that allowed him to sustain his creativity without compromise, without having to bow to external pressures or devaluing systems.
And that right there is the aha moment for you, our listener.
Exactly. Most artists, most creatives, most entrepreneurs, they chase immediate applause. They often wait for someone else to tell them what their work is worth, or for some existing system to deliver what they perceive as fair pay. Pharrell, on the other hand, chased ownership and meticulously built the power to price himself.
So the question for you listening is, are you waiting for someone to tell you what you're worth? Or are you actively creating the systems, the frameworks, the undeniable value that will make your worth self-evident? That's a powerful transition because let's remember, by the early 2000s, Pharrell was already an undisputed producing powerhouse. As one half of the Neptunes, alongside Chad Hugo, he was behind chart-topping, genre-defining hits for, everyone. Britney Spears, Justin Timberlake, Jay-Z, Nelly.
The list goes on and on. Huge names.
He was at the absolute zenith of the music production game. But while his peers were stacking plaques and obsessing over chart positions, Pharrell was quietly, radically asking a different kind of question. Something like, what if I stopped making hits for others and started building something of my own, something truly enduring? This question, this almost subversive thought, was really the genesis of his entire long-term wealth strategy.
And that question led directly to his very first significant step in that direction, launching Star Trek Entertainment in 2003, his own record label, initially under Arista. Now, this wasn't just about finding new artists. It was a crucial move to gain greater control over the artists he developed and, more importantly, a larger share of the revenue generated from those projects.
Right, taking a bigger piece of the pie he was helping create?
Exactly. It was a clear, intentional shift towards building his own infrastructure, his own ecosystem, rather than simply being a gun for hire in the studio. No matter how successful that gun-for-hire role was, he saw the shift happening in the music industry, and he was positioning himself for control, not just compensation.
So he clearly had remarkable foresight. It really seems like he grasped that the very nature of creative value was changing, even before many others did.
Precisely. Pharrell possessed an almost uncanny foresight that very few of his peers seemed to share at the time. He recognized that music, particularly in the digital era that was just dawning, was rapidly becoming, well, disposable.
Yeah, streams were pennies.
All right, tracks could be streamed for pennies, shared freely, and lose their perceived value almost overnight. He understood that true, enduring wealth wouldn't come from merely creating popular content. It would come from owning the cultural context that content inhabited.
Owning the context. That's interesting.
Yeah. This was his long game in action, a deliberate, patient strategy of accumulation and control rather than chasing immediate, fleeting payouts. This deep understanding is exactly why his move in 2005 to co-found Billionaire Boys Club, or BBC, and Ice Cream with Nigo was so profoundly revolutionary.
Back to BBC and ice cream.
Right. As we touched on, it wasn't just another celebrity clothing line to cash in on fame. Pharrell infused it with a distinct aesthetic and a core philosophy that resonated deeply with youth culture. It wasn't just skate or just hip-hop. It was this unique blend that was futurist, minimalist, and uniquely his.
Like the astronaut logo.
Exactly. The iconic astronaut logo of BBC and the playful, vibrant graphics of Ice Cream. They immediately became symbols of a discerning, forward-thinking sensibility. They weren't just designs. They were extensions of his creative worldview. He wasn't just selling clothes. He was embedding his identity into tangible, scalable, and crucially ownable assets.
There it is again, ownable.
Consider the stark contrast. While a popular song might pay fractions of a cent over time through complex royalty structures, fashion offers significantly higher upfront margins, and perhaps even more importantly, a longer shelf life and direct control over the brand narrative.
Right, you control the story.
Exactly. When you invested in a BBC hoodie or Ice Cream sneakers, you weren't just buying a garment. You were acquiring a piece of Pharrell's entire curated world, a piece of his perspective you could tangibly wear and display. So while the majority of artists were intensely focused on negotiating bigger tour deals or securing more lucrative advances from record labels, Pharrell was quietly, deliberately, and with immense strategic intention building equity.
Like building blocks.
Just like building blocks. His wealth didn't arrive as a sudden, massive spike from a single hit. Instead, it accumulated slowly, brick by brick, brand by brand, investment by investment, much like a carefully constructed building.
And this brings us to what many saw as the ultimate validation of this long game. His appointment as men's creative director of Louis Vuitton in February 2023. That news truly shocked the world. How does all of this connect to that specific move?
It connects everything. The Louis Vuitton appointment was the ultimate manifestation, the real inflection point of his 2-decade-long strategic evolution. Many people outside the industry, and even some within it, genuinely asked, how could a musician whose last massive radio hit was years ago suddenly be at the creative helm of one of the world's most prestigious luxury houses?
Right, especially succeeding Virgil Abloh.
Exactly, a legend like Virgil Abloh. The answer, as we've been exploring, lies entirely in that deeply deliberate long game he'd been playing. Pharrell didn't land at Louis Vuitton by actively chasing fashion clout or by simply being a celebrity endorser who would slap his name on products. He arrived there because he had spent 20 years meticulously curating profound, multidisciplinary influence.
So the groundwork was already laid for years.
For years. His creative fingerprints were already indelibly etched across various luxury and lifestyle sectors. From his early groundbreaking collaborations with Chanel, working directly with Karl Lagerfeld, mind you,
Oh, Lager.
to his extensive, highly successful sneaker and apparel lines with Adidas. He collaborated with avant-garde artists like Takashi Murakami on unique art installations and iconic figures like Cloud on collectible toys and apparel. He'd been designing behind the scenes for years, not just individual garments, but shaping taste, influencing trends, and building powerful visual narratives.
It wasn't out of the blue then.
Not at all. Bernard Arnault, the CEO of LVMH, the luxury conglomerate that owns Louis Vuitton, he perfectly articulated this strategic recognition in his statement. He said, Pharrell's creative universe expands from music to art and to fashion, establishing himself as a cultural global icon over the past 20 years.
That's explicit recognition of the strategy.
Exactly. This wasn't just a polite statement. It was an explicit acknowledgement of a deeply integrated, multifaceted strategy. Pharrell understood a fundamental truth that many artists overlook. Money often does follow influence, but only when that influence is meticulously tied to systems you either directly own or powerfully control.
Systems you own or control.
Yes. His career moves were never mere brand extensions, temporary celebrity endorsements. They were carefully planned, deeply rooted brand integrations. Each project, a deliberate building block, contributing to a larger, more diversified portfolio of intellectual, cultural, and ultimately financial assets. So by 2025, his estimated net worth is hovering around a remarkable $250 million. And this isn't from a handful of big hits. It's powered by an incredibly diverse and self-sustaining ecosystem of revenue streams. We're talking music royalties, yes, but far more significantly, his fashion brands, extensive licensing deals, his real estate investments, product design.
Like the Adidas sneakers, the human race line?
Exactly, the human race line, which is ongoing and highly successful, and now major creative direction roles like the one at Louis Vuitton.
So it's not just about the money itself, is it? It's about what that wealth enables him to do.
Precisely. For Pharrell, wealth was never the ultimate end goal. It was rather the indispensable infrastructure. It was the means by which he gained the profound freedom to experiment without commercial pressure, to support and uplift young and emerging creatives through his own platforms, to confidently say no to bad deals that didn't align with his vision.
That's huge power.
Huge. And crucially, to build new platforms and systems where creativity wasn't just celebrated, but was capitalized upon ethically and entirely on his own terms. The true brilliance of Pharrell's career isn't merely that he amassed significant wealth or achieved global recognition, it's how he did it. He didn't chase higher fees within existing devaluing systems. Instead, he meticulously built deeper foundations, creating entirely new systems and avenues for value creation where his unique contributions could be recognized and rewarded.
He built wide, not just fast.
Exactly. He didn't build fast, he built wide spanning across industries, across cultures, and even across generations, ensuring his influence was pervasive and enduring. This is a profound lesson for all of us trying to build something lasting. If you're looking to create enduring impact and worth, ask yourself this. Are you simply chasing immediate compensation, or are you strategically designing a lasting legacy?
When we typically envision creative genius, there's this pervasive, almost romanticized stereotype, right? We often picture chaos. Late nights fueled by gallons of coffee, erratic bursts of unpredictable inspiration, maybe even a touch of self-destruction that somehow romanticizes the cost of profound creativity.
The tortured artist trope, yeah.
Exactly. But Pharrell Williams completely shatters that mold. His brilliance doesn't burn wildly and unpredictably. It runs with precise, almost engineered consistency. His success isn't powered by some chaotic muse. It's meticulously constructed through deeply intentional, often surprisingly quiet discipline.
It's truly a counter-narrative to that prevailing mythology. One of his most defining creative habits, for instance, is almost deceptively simple. Pharrell only works during the day. He's famously quoted saying, "I don't make music at night. I need sunlight. I need energy. I want to feel the rhythm of life happening outside my window."
That's interesting. Just sunlight.
Yeah, that seemingly small detail reveals a much deeper truth about his approach. Pharrell doesn't view creativity as some mystical, elusive state to be chased or passively waited for. Instead, he treats it as a physiological and psychological condition that he must actively prepare for and optimize.
Like an athlete prepares for a game.
Exactly. He prioritizes his energy levels, meticulously designs his environment, and carefully curates his emotional state. While countless other artists rely on adrenaline, massive amounts of caffeine, or the intense pressure of last-minute deadlines to kickstart their flow, Pharrell methodically builds daily systems that naturally sustain his creative flow. He guards his mental bandwidth with the same diligence an astute investor guards their most valuable capital.
So structure is key.
It seems so. His daily routines meticulously reflect this philosophy. He wakes early, often before dawn, dedicates time to personal reflection, physical activity. He intentionally limits distractions, particularly digital ones, during his peak creative hours. And he consistently surrounds himself with a rotating, carefully curated circle of young, hungry collaborators, producers, engineers, visual artists who bring fresh perspectives and challenge his assumptions.
Keeping it fresh.
Exactly, ensuring he never gets complacent. His studio space itself, unlike the stereotype of a chaotic artist's lair, isn't cluttered or disorganized. It's kept sacred. Often bathed in natural light, minimalist in design, often filled with living plants, carefully chosen textures, meaningful objects that evoke curiosity rather than visual noise. It's a space designed for focused creation.
So he finds freedom in structure rather than feeling stifled by it. That's quite a departure from the tortured artist trope.
Absolutely. This level of discipline might sound almost mundane, even antithetical, for someone who creates such vibrant, groundbreaking art, but Pharrell sees no contradiction whatsoever. For him, structure is freedom. The more predictable and optimized his environment is, the more truly unpredictable and groundbreaking his ideas can genuinely be.
That makes sense.
And that, perhaps more than any other factor, explains why his sound and his aesthetic never stagnate. There's a profound reason you don't hear a distinct Pharrell era that sounds exactly like the previous one. From the stripped-down funk of Drop It Like It's Hot, to the soaring optimism of Happy, to his futuristic Adidas sneakers or the inclusive narratives at Louis Vuitton, he simply doesn't repeat himself.
He keeps evolving.
Constantly. This isn't because he's chasing novelty for its own sake. It's because he's actively, rigorously avoiding what he perceives as creative laziness or comfort. He has famously said, "I never want to get comfortable. Comfort is the enemy of invention."
Comfort is the enemy. I like that.
That mindset also manifests in the specific, almost surgical questions he asks in the studio. Pharrell is known for being obsessive, not necessarily about achieving absolute perfection, but about cultivating perspective. He'll turn to his producers, his engineers, even an intern, and genuinely ask, "What does this feel like to you?"
Not, does it sound good, but what does it feel like?
Exactly. Notice the difference. He doesn't ask, "Does it sound good?" but rather, "Does it feel necessary?" He's not just building hit songs. He's meticulously constructing emotional architecture, creating sonic and visual experiences that people can truly live inside, that resonate on a deeper level.
Emotional architecture.
Wow. Another one of his signature behaviors, highly relevant today, is his deliberate refusal to chase virality. While a huge segment of the industry is obsessed with crafting TikTok hooks or 15-second earworms,
Right, stuff designed to blow up quick.
Pharrell often builds songs that unfold slowly, almost defiantly, against algorithmic expectations. Remember Get Lucky with Daft Punk. When it first came out, many were surprised by its almost retro laid-back groove. It didn't immediately scream chart topper.
Yeah, it grew on you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yet over time, its infectious, understated cool helped it become the defining soundtrack of an entire summer and beyond. That's his strategy. He doesn't aim to trend. He aims to linger, to embed itself deeply and enduringly into the culture.
Playing the long game, even with individual songs.
Precisely. This profound approach extends seamlessly to fashion as well, where his creative process is almost ritualistic. He sketches constantly, fills notebooks. He studies color theory with obsessive dedication, understanding its psychological and emotional impact. Before his first massive Louis Vuitton show, reports say he spent weeks agonizing not just over fabrics or cuts, but over the emotional tonality of the entire experience.
The feeling he wanted to create.
Yes. He explicitly stated, "I want people to feel something spiritual." This wasn't about clothes. It was about elevating a moment into a profound shared experience. Underlying all of this intentional design is a deeply held core belief. The artist's ultimate job is to make the invisible visible. And that, he understands, requires far more than just raw talent. It demands habits that actively protect silence, rigorously nurture curiosity, and intentionally carve out dedicated space for deep, uninterrupted exploration.
And this discipline extends to his personal life too, right? To sustain all this.
Absolutely. And of
Yeah.
course, his discipline extends far into his personal life, underpinning his ability to sustain this level of output. He famously avoids alcohol and recreational drugs, prioritizes deep restorative sleep above all else, and maintains an incredibly private stance regarding his family. He once shared, "I can't create from burnout. I can't connect if I'm disconnected from myself."
That makes so much sense.
This isn't just about self-care, which is important. It is, in itself, a crucial, non-negotiable creative strategy that allows him to show up consistently and authentically for his work. But perhaps his single most powerful behavior, the one that truly sets him apart, is his profound emotional humility.
Humility, despite all the success.
Yes, despite his almost unparalleled influence and success across multiple industries, Pharrell is frequently described by collaborators and observers as the most genuinely curious person in any room he enters. He asks more questions than he asserts statements. He listens for longer than he speaks. He doesn't lead with ego or with preconceived notions. He consistently leads with genuine inquiry and an open mind.
Leading with inquiry, not ego.
And an industry so often built on spectacle and self-promotion, he finds immense strength in stillness. In a world that constantly rewards noise and loudness, he has truly mastered the nuanced art of deep listening. This isn't just a quirky personality trait, it's an intentional system, a finely tuned internal compass that allows him to not just outlast fleeting trends, but to quietly and fundamentally shape them from underneath.
So this is the profound challenge for you, our listener. What if success isn't primarily about being louder, faster, or constantly busier?
What if it's about carefully and deliberately designing a rhythm of life where creativity shows up every single day simply because you have intentionally created the space and consistency for it to do so?
It's truly incredible to consider Pharrell's multitude of talents, his ability to seemingly effortlessly navigate music, fashion, art, design, all these different fields. But what you've described so far suggests that beneath the surface of all that creative output lies something far rarer and perhaps even more impactful, a cohesive, deeply intentional philosophy of life. It seems Pharrell doesn't just make things. He makes deliberate, almost philosophical choices about what to make, why to make it, and crucially, when to step back or walk away. Is it these intentional choices, far more than just raw talent, that have shaped his extraordinary path?
Precisely. I think that's exactly right. His core decision-making framework starts with what many would consider a truly radical premise, especially today. Not every opportunity, no matter how shiny or lucrative, is worth taking.
Which goes against so much advice we hear.
Absolutely. It stands in stark contrast with the common advice to seize every chance, network relentlessly, always be on. But in a candid 2017 interview, when pressed on how he filters through the myriad projects he's offered, his answer was almost unsettling in its clarity. If it doesn't feel like legacy, I pass.
Legacy, that's the key word.
That word legacy isn't just a nice idea or a vague aspiration. It's his unwavering compass, his non-negotiable filter. For him, it's not about immediate money or fleeting fame or even short-term cultural relevance. It's about creating something that will meaningfully outlive the moment, outlast market trends, and profoundly transcend the hype.
That's a bold stance, especially in industries notorious for chasing the next big thing. Are there any specific examples where this legacy compass guided him to make a surprising decision?
Absolutely. This principle became incredibly clear and arguably foresightful during the frenzied speculative rise of NFTs and digital collectibles a few years back.
Oh yeah, the NFT craze.
Right. While the entire creative world, musicians, visual artists, seemed to rush headfirst into blockchain-based art drops, eager to capitalize on the boom, Pharrell was notably cautious. He didn't dismiss the technology outright. He explored the space, he gained a deep understanding of the technical mechanics, he consulted with leading platforms and innovators in Web3.
So he did his homework.
He did. However, he deliberately delayed releasing any personal NFT projects, citing profound concerns about their significant environmental impact due to the energy consumption of certain blockchains, and the rampant speculative frenzy that he observed characterizing the market at the time.
That was smart, given how that market went.
Very smart in hindsight. He was quoted saying, "I'm not against the technology, but I won't attach my name to something just because it's hot. It has to be meaningful, sustainable, and aligned with my values." He actively chose not to participate in the initial gold rush of NFT projects like Bored Apes or other large-scale celebrity drops.
He could have made millions, easily.
Easily. Millions in short-term gains, as many of his peers did. But in return for that self-imposed restraint, he earned something far more enduring and valuable. credibility, and an untarnished reputation. In a landscape where so many public figures are seen chasing every new wave, Pharrell demonstrated the profound discipline to wait, observe, and act, only when true alignment was present.
Reputation compound.
Exactly. He truly understands that reputation compounds far more powerfully and lasts infinitely longer than any fleeting payday. This deeply philosophical lens applies not just to what he creates, but also to how he lives his daily life. Pharrell has often described himself as a diligent student of his own emotional intuition. Before he commits to a major deal, before he signs off on a significant project, he doesn't just analyze it intellectually, scrutinizing contracts and projections. He consciously takes the time to sit with it emotionally. He asks himself, if something makes me feel rushed, aggressive, or distracted, I pause. I don't want my decisions to come from a place of fear or ego.
Listening to his gut feeling, essentially.
Essentially, yes. This internal barometer is critical for him.
That's a profound contrast to the industry's typical pressure for rapid decision-making and constant reactivity.
Indeed. This approach is especially profound in industries where most choices are reactive, where the pressure to stay constantly relevant and maximize every opportunity can lead even the most talented individuals to compromise their integrity, their standards, or even their well-being. Pharrell actively counters that pervasive pressure by treating clarity as his ultimate currency.
Clarity as currency. Interesting.
He doesn't rush decisions simply because he instinctively understands that urgency is often conflated with, but is not equivalent to, true importance. He waits for clarity, even if it means missing out on immediate perceived gains.
Patience is key.
Huge. A defining moment that perfectly exemplified this approach came with his monumental appointment as creative director of Louis Vuitton Men's in 2023. The offer itself was massive, not just in its immense stature stepping into the creative directorship of one of the world's most iconic luxury brands, but in its profound symbolism.
Succeeding Virgil Abloh, a huge legacy.
Exactly. He would be succeeding the monumental legacy of Virgil Abloh, who was not only the first black man to hold that role, but also a cultural giant, a personal friend, and a collaborator. Pharrell didn't say yes immediately. He took significant time to reflect.
He paused. Yeah.
On the immense weight of the position, on what he could uniquely contribute, and critically, on whether the move truly aligned with his broader mission of empowerment through creativity, particularly for underrepresented voices. When he finally accepted the role, it wasn't to simply fill someone else's shoes or just take a high-profile job. It was to build bridges.
Build bridges? How so?
Bridges between the worlds of streetwear and haute couture, between the vibrant energies of music and high design, and profoundly, between Black identity and the legacy of European luxury heritage. This wasn't ego driving the decision. This was philosophy in action. It's the principle of only stepping into rooms where you can truly expand the space, contribute a new perspective, and leave an indelible mark, not just occupy it temporarily. This intentionality also clearly illustrates itself in his personal life, particularly in how he approaches parenting, his marriage, his relationship with fame. He very rarely shares his children's images publicly, not out of secrecy, but out of a deeply intentional desire for protection and normalcy.
Protecting your privacy.
Exactly. He doesn't perform family life for the cameras or for social media engagement. He lives it quietly, deliberately. As he himself has said, "My kids didn't choose fame. They deserve to grow up without it defining them." In a world absolutely addicted to exposure and constant sharing, Pharrell consistently chooses containment.
Containment over exposure.
Yes. In a culture utterly obsessed with quantity of output and visibility, he rigorously prioritizes quality. The quality of his time, the quality of his relationships, the quality of his thoughts, and the quality of his work. What ties all of this together, what truly underpins his entire approach, is his deep-seated belief that success isn't about what you accumulate in terms of assets or recognition, it's about what you curate.
Curate, like a museum exhibition.
Exactly like that. The projects you meticulously choose to engage with, the energy you fiercely protect, the silence and space you preserve for deep thought, the people you uplift and empower. That, for him, is legacy. So here's a question most of us don't ask nearly often enough about our own lives and careers. What is the fundamental philosophy behind your choices? Are you consistently moving from a place of clear, conscious intention? Or are you simply reacting to external pressures, fleeting opportunities, or the demands of others?
That's a deep question.
Because Pharrell Williams didn't become one of the most quietly powerful and enduring voices in global culture by merely chasing every available opportunity. He got there by consistently choosing, again and again, to honor what truly matters to him, aligned with his deepest values and long-term vision.
It's a common misconception, isn't it? That influence is directly proportional to visibility. That the more people who know your name, the more powerful you are.
Yeah, the follower count myth.
Exactly. But Pharrell Williams completely dismantles that simplistic notion. His understanding seems to be that true power isn't about how many people simply recognize your name. It's about how deeply and fundamentally you shape what they believe, what they feel, and what they ultimately value. He operates not on the superficial level of popularity or viral trends, but at the fundamental structural level of culture itself.
He's precisely right. Pharrell doesn't chase fleeting virality. He actively engineers profound cultural shifts. We witnessed this undeniably in June 2023 when he unveiled his first full collection as men's creative director of Louis Vuitton at Paris Fashion Week.
That show on the bridge, right?
Exactly. It was far more than just a fashion show. It was a historical event, a meticulously choreographed symphony of symbolism, identity, and creative diplomacy, staged on one of Paris's most iconic landmarks. Held on the Pont Neuf Bridge, the oldest standing bridge across the Seine, the show was a masterful fusion. It effortlessly blended rich Black cultural heritage with classic European elegance.
Gospel choirs and orchestra.
Yes, featuring live gospel choirs providing a powerful spiritual soundtrack alongside Parisian orchestral arrangements. Skate silhouettes were redefined with tailored precision, blurring traditional boundaries between streetwear and haute couture. The front row wasn't just fashion elites. It was a who's who of global icons. Beyoncé, Rihanna, Jay-Z, Zendaya, Tyler, the Creator, J-Hope from BTS.
Just casually listing global superstars.
Right. But the raw star power, while impressive, wasn't what made the show truly remarkable. It was the powerful, undeniable message it conveyed, a message that resonated deeply. Pharrell masterfully used that runway, that global stage, not just to sell clothes, but to tell a profound and deeply personal story. A narrative of Black resilience, of creative ownership, and of the inherent right to occupy historically exclusive luxury spaces without any need for assimilation or compromise.
Making a statement.
A huge statement. He centered the show around themes of the sun, the cosmos, the sheer joy of living, directly challenging traditional notions of luxury. The show closed with a live, electrifying performance by the Voices of Fire Choir, a gospel group Pharrell had helped spotlight through a Netflix series.
Oh, I remember that series.
Yeah, they sang an original spiritual anthem titled Joy, Unspeakable. It wasn't subtle. It was a loud, clear, and unashamed declaration of Black joy and cultural power, broadcast to the entire world.
Wow, that's using the platform.
And this is what defines Pharrell's power thinking. He turns every single platform, every single opportunity into a message vehicle, a conduit for deeper meaning. From his meticulously crafted music to innovative merchandise, from curated museum exhibits to groundbreaking sneaker designs, Pharrell doesn't merely participate in culture, he codes it.
Codes it. Explain that.
Every single detail is infused with layers of intention and meaning. For instance, his upcoming 2025 art exhibition Femmes at Galerie Perrotin in Paris. He's curating works that specifically celebrate Black women's profound contributions to art, science, and society. The focus isn't on him as the curator. It's about amplifying what has been historically overlooked and undervalued.
Using his access as a spotlight.
Exactly. Using his access and his global platform as a spotlight to illuminate others, rather than simply a mirror to reflect his own image.
So he's not just creating art, he's shaping the narrative around it.
Precisely. This entire approach stems from a core belief that art is never neutral. Every creation he understands either implicitly upholds or explicitly challenges the existing status quo. Pharrell consistently chooses to challenge, but he does so not through confrontation or loud, aggressive protest, but through elegance, through sophistication, through meticulously designed cultural experiences.
Influence that's layered, not loud.
Perfectly put. His influence is never noisy or aggressive. It's layered, nuanced, and incredibly deep, working subtly and persistently within the cultural fabric. Even in the realm of brand partnerships, Pharrell plays an incredibly long game. He engages in highly strategic collaborations with legacy brands, not just for their credibility or reach, but crucially for the leverage they provide.
Like Adidas, G-Star.
Exactly. When he partners with companies like Adidas, G-Star, Raw, or Moncler, he doesn't just lend his name or image. He meticulously negotiates for significant creative control over the entire design and marketing process. That right there is power thinking in action. Understanding that you must control the narrative, or someone else will inevitably define it, often in ways that don't serve your long-term vision.
Controlling the narrative is key.
Crucial. His human race line with Adidas, for example, isn't just about sneakers. It's about connecting global cultures and promoting human unity through design. What makes Pharrell's social influence truly unique is that he never positions himself as a sole savior or a singular spokesman for any movement. Instead, he dedicates his immense efforts to curating what can be best described as cultural architecture. He builds frameworks, establishes systems, cultivates platforms where other talented individuals can thrive.
Like, I am other.
Exactly. His creative incubator, I Am Other, is a perfect illustration. It's not just a record label or production house. It's a philosophical platform designed to celebrate diverse thinkers, doers, and tastemakers from various backgrounds, whether in music, film, or fashion. It's Pharrell explicitly saying, this isn't about me, it's about what's next. It's about the collective future of creativity.
Elevating.
He launched Maggie Rogers' career through this platform, for instance.
Elevating others.
And yet, make no mistake, Pharrell is profoundly strategic in his presence. He possesses an innate understanding of when to speak out, when to gracefully withdraw from the spotlight, and crucially, when to simply let the work itself speak volumes. He doesn't seek to dominate spaces. He seeks to elevate them, leaving them richer and more expansive than he found them.
Ecosystems, not empires.
Precisely. In a world often consumed by fierce individualism and the pursuit of personal fame, Pharrell consistently chooses collective influence. He doesn't strive to build vast personal empires. He meticulously constructs intricate, interconnected ecosystems of creativity and cultural impact. That's fundamentally why his brand consistently feels like meaning, not just marketing. He isn't merely selling products, whether it's a song or a Louis Vuitton handbag. He's selling powerful perspectives.
A worldview.
An aspirational worldview rooted in joy, inclusivity, and creative freedom. And that's what truly resonates with people, what they buy into. Not just the clothes or the beats, but the deep belief system, the intentional philosophy that underpins everything he creates. There's a term used in technology, the network effect, where the value of a platform increases as more people use it.
Right.
Pharrell has masterfully engineered a cultural network effect around himself. The more meaning he creates, the more opportunities arise for others. The more he shares power, amplifies diverse voices, the more profoundly powerful and indispensable he himself becomes.
So how did he become this icon?
If you truly want to understand how Pharrell seamlessly transitioned from a visionary producer to a global cultural shaper, the answer is deceptively simple, yet profoundly insightful. He never consciously tried to be influential. He simply tried to be useful to the culture, to emerging artists, to the very idea of creativity. And in doing so, by serving a higher purpose, he became absolutely essential.
That's powerful. He tried to be useful.
Now ask yourself, are you using your platforms, your skills, your opportunities, primarily to gather fleeting attention? Or are you actively working to build meaning that possesses the inherent ability to outlast any single moment?
Every long, distinguished career faces moments of profound crisis. It's simply inevitable, right?
Seems that way. Part of the journey.
And these moments don't just test your reputation or resolve, they test your entire philosophy of success, pushing you to your limits. For Pharrell Williams, one of those truly defining moments arrived in the stark, unforgiving setting of a courtroom, triggered by a lawsuit that sent shockwaves throughout the entire music industry, raising fundamental questions about creative originality and inspiration.
The Blurred Lines lawsuit.
Exactly. In 2015, Pharrell and his collaborator Robin Thicke faced that major legal battle. They were ultimately found guilty of infringing on the copyright of Marvin Gaye's 1977 hit, Gotta Give It Up, with their own massive hit, Blurred Lines.
A huge song at the time.
Huge. The court initially ordered them to pay a staggering $7.4 million in damages, later reduced to $5.3 million on appeal, but still an enormous figure. For an artist like Pharrell, known for innovation, originality, a unique sound, the verdict wasn't just financially painful, it was profoundly creatively destabilizing, an implicit challenge to his very artistic identity. It forced an internal reckoning.
And this is precisely where Pharrell's unique approach truly shines, revealing the depth of his strategic mind. He didn't publicly lash out, he didn't disown the song or engage in angry, defensive public statements. What he did was far more strategic and ultimately insightful. He went quiet, and then he went inward.
Silence as strategy.
Exactly. This was not retreat, but recalibration. In candid interviews years after the verdict, Pharrell reflected on that challenging moment, not as an injustice, but rather as a necessary, if painful, wake-up call.
A wake-up call. Interesting.
Yeah. He admitted that it forced him to fundamentally rethink not just how he created music, but crucially, how he meticulously documented, how he strategically protected, and how he wisely positioned his intellectual property. It became abundantly clear to him that it was no longer sufficient to simply be creative. He had to become legally creative.
Legally creative.
Meaning he had to understand the legal and business frameworks governing his art and actively work within them to protect his output. In essence, the game had decisively changed, and so too did he.
Adapting to the new reality.
That infamous lawsuit marked the beginning of a quiet but incredibly powerful shift in his entire business model and approach to IP. Pharrell began systematically restructuring his publishing arrangements, ensuring greater transparency and control. He strategically increased his ownership stakes in various ventures, including his own masters, and actively invested in platforms designed to give creators greater leverage and more equitable control over their own work.
Taking more control again.
Exactly. He leaned even further into synchronization licensing, placing his music in films, ads, TV series, where the value was often clearer, the terms significantly more transparent, and the revenue streams more consistent compared to the murky waters of streaming royalties.
Like using songs in movie trailers or big ad campaigns.
Exactly. A deliberate choice for clearer value. He also aggressively decentralized his brand even further. Instead of relying too heavily on any single industry, music, fashion, art, he diversified even more aggressively, creating a multi-pronged enterprise.
Don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Precisely. Every crisis, every setback became a compelling argument for further, deeper diversification. He wasn't simply building isolated streams of income, he was meticulously constructing interlocking pillars of identity, each one designed to be self-sustaining, yet profoundly interconnected, creating a robust, anti-fragile ecosystem that could withstand shocks in any single market.
Anti-fragile, able to benefit from shocks.
Exactly. This foresight, this deliberate strategic mindset, made Pharrell uniquely prepared for the constantly shifting tides of culture and technology. When social media platforms began demanding hypervisibility and a constant flood of content, he didn't just conform by flooding the market. Instead, he became even more selective and intentional with his content, prioritizing quality and meaning over sheer volume.
Quality over quantity.
Right. When streaming services continued to devalue individual songs, he strategically invested in experiential storytelling, crafting elaborate immersive live shows, impactful fashion runways like Louis Vuitton, unique visual exhibitions that couldn't be copied or streamed for pennies.
Emphasizing the experience.
Exactly. If the digital world devalued the product, he would emphasize the experience around it. Take, for example, his upcoming 2024 animated film, Piece by Piece, created with focus features in Universal, telling his life story entirely through Lego.
The Lego movie? Yeah.
The project is deeply autobiographical, yes, but it also serves as a profound, almost literal metaphor for his post-crisis approach. It illustrates how Pharrell quite literally rebuilt his career piece by piece, meticulously and intentionally, like constructing with building blocks. After every storm, every challenge, he didn't start over or despair. He strategically restructured, reimagined, and reinforced. Every perceived block or setback became a crucial architectural element in his evolving, increasingly resilient career.
That's the very essence of his long-term strategy. Don't just survive the crisis, mine it for architecture.
That's a powerful way to frame it. He doesn't panic because he's always building.
Exactly. There's that saying in finance,
Yeah.
Compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world.
Right. Pharrell applies this powerful principle directly to creativity and influence. He doesn't chase sudden, ephemeral spikes in fame or short-term revenue. Instead, he consistently invests in building systems that compound meaning and influence over extended periods. His decisions are rarely reactive, they're profoundly recursive. Each move thoughtfully connects to a larger overarching arc, a deeper, consistent thesis that the most powerful, enduring creators play for lasting legacy, not fleeting applause or a transient hit. This deep strategic alignment also profoundly explains why Pharrell doesn't panic in moments of intense public pressure or crisis. He's not playing for the next hit single, the next sensational headline, or the approval of critics. He's playing for something far more invisible, yet infinitely more enduring. Deep alignment with his core values and his unwavering long-term vision.
Playing for alignment.
His entire crisis strategy, the blueprint for his resilience, can really be boiled down to three core principles. First, silence as recalibration. Not every crisis needs an immediate public statement. Sometimes it needs quiet, internal strategic recalibration, reflection, rebuilding. Second, structure before scale. If something breaks, don't just frantically rebuild it bigger or faster. rebuild it smarter, with a more robust, diversified, resilient underlying structure.
Build back better, essentially.
Exactly. And third, long memory, short ego. Let the hard-won lessons from failure stay with you. Integrate them into your wisdom, but let the ego, the personal sting, the humiliation go. Carry the strategic insights, not the emotional baggage.
Long memory, short ego. I like that.
As of 2025, Pharrell Williams stands not just as an artist who has miraculously remained relevant across decades, but as a true system builder, a cultural architect. His immense influence is no longer primarily tied to what he personally produces, but rather to what he makes possible for countless others within the expansive ecosystems he has cultivated. And that, in essence, is what definitively separates creatives who eventually fade from those who profoundly endure. They don't just make hits or products. They make enduring frameworks and cultivate lasting meaning.
So this is a critical question for you, our listener, to reflect on. When the next crisis inevitably comes, and it will, every ambitious journey has storms, will you instinctively panic, or will you seize that moment as a profound opportunity to build?
Will you desperately try to protect what was, or will you courageously design what could be? Because in the end, the game doesn't truly belong to the most talented. It belongs, without question, to the ones who know how to keep playing, adapting, and building long after the music might seem to have stopped.
What an incredible journey we've taken today, unpacking the Pharrell Williams playbook for redefining value. At its core, Pharrell's extraordinary story isn't just about creative success in the traditional sense. It's about a profound, almost revolutionary understanding of creative ownership. Ownership of your vision, ownership of your precious time, ownership of your inherent value, and perhaps most importantly, ownership of your unique voice in a crowded world.
That idea of ownership just keeps coming back.
It really does. Remember that stark starting point? The world once told him through that royalty statement that 43 million streams of a cultural phenomenon was worth a mere $2,700. That his melodies, priceless in the hearts of listeners, were deemed nearly worthless in dollars by a system that couldn't comprehend his true impact. But instead of fighting that system with outrage or despair, he did something truly revolutionary. He didn't just complain about the system, he studied it.
Mastered it.
He mastered its intricate mechanisms, and then, with immense patience and meticulous design, he painstakingly built a new one, a new paradigm, a new ecosystem, where value was not just measured by external forces, but was fundamentally defined, curated, and ultimately demanded by him.
That's the power of his approach. He didn't stay confined to the liner notes or production credits. He moved deliberately and strategically to museum walls, to the most prestigious runways of Paris, into the highest echelons of corporate boardrooms. He didn't trade his art for money conventionally. He strategically traded the conventional pursuit of money for absolute autonomy and the freedom to pursue projects aligned with his legacy.
Trading money for autonomy.
Exactly. And that truly is a profound lesson that many creators, many entrepreneurs, many ambitious individuals never fully learn. Pharrell's journey teaches us this undeniable truth. Real, enduring power isn't just given to you by existing structures. It's meticulously engineered through immense patience, intentional design, willingness to experiment, and through deeply held values that simply do not crack under pressure.
Built, not given.
He didn't win by making more noise or constantly seeking the spotlight. He won by consistently making meaning, by building enduring structures year after year across decades. We often talk about success like it's a race or a single peak to conquer. But Pharrell's story reminds us it's more like a series of rooms you enter throughout your life and career.
A series of rooms.
Yeah. And the true key isn't just to enter those rooms, but to profoundly reshape them once you're inside. To leave behind not just fleeting applause, but enduring architecture systems and frameworks that allow others to build and thrive long after you've moved on. So to you, our listener, here's a truth you might be grappling with. Your ideas, your unique story, your identity, your contributions, they may not be priced correctly by the world right now. Not yet.
That can be discouraging.
It can be, but please understand, that's not a reason to quit or to feel permanently undervalued. That instead is your powerful, undeniable reason to start building better systems, to strategically surround yourself with sharper, more insightful people, and crucially, to never, ever confuse fleeting applause or an immediate payout with your inherent profound worth. Pharrell didn't wait to be chosen by the existing system, which had so glaringly undervalued him. He consistently chose himself again and again, project by project, decision by decision, and eventually the world, the market, the culture caught up to his undeniable value.
He chose himself. So what about you? As you reflect on Pharrell's journey, perhaps you found yourself in his shoes. Maybe not at the scale of 43 million streams or designing for Louis Vuitton, but certainly in spirit. You've poured your time, your heart, your absolute best ideas into something you deeply believe in. And the world, for whatever reason, responded with silence. Or even worse, with a number so small, so dismissive, that it made you question your very worth, made you feel invisible.
That feeling is tough. Really tough.
We all know that moment. When tremendous effort doesn't seem to equal a commensurate outcome. When your talent, your passion feels overlooked. When the very system you trusted to reward you simply doesn't. But what if that moment isn't the end of your story? What if, just like for Pharrell, it's the beginning of something much, much bigger?
A starting point, not an ending.
Exactly. Not a breakdown, but a meticulously designed blueprint for your future. So I'll ask you personally to sit with this. What's your $2,700 moment? What was undervalued, overlooked, or underpaid in your experience, but something that was deeply, profoundly meaningful to you, something you knew held immense value?
Find that moment.
We encourage you to reflect on that. This deep dive has been about decoding how extraordinary, enduring success truly happens, and how you might strategically achieve it, not by playing someone else's game, but by designing your own. Because success isn't just a spotlight, it's a strategy.
And yours starts now.